Really excited about the addition of our new athletic director, Steve Patterson. Steve's obviously been very successful at the highest levels of sports, and I know he helped with the building of Reliant Stadium, did so many things with the Rockets and the Trailblazers, and the reviews that we've gotten from Arizona State are just really, really good. So he's following a legend, we know that, but he is also a Texas Ex, and a guy that has followed this program for many, many years and appreciates all that DeLoss has done, and DeLoss will be here to help him. But we have total trust in Bill Powers and DeLoss and the superstar committee that he put together, and I think we hit a home run. So we're really excited about him getting in here and getting started. Practice was really good yesterday. Guys came out with a lot of intensity and know the urgency over the next 4 football games and what's out there that we can still accomplish. And they are totally aware that West Virginia beat Oklahoma State, who's a really good football team, in Morgantown earlier in the year. They also watched the video very closely of them beating TCU last weekend and a comeback win. So they're excited about that challenge as we go forward. David Ash was out at practice yesterday for the first time, and he was dressed in shorts with a jersey, and he threw the ball and ran around some, and hopefully that's a great sign that he'll be ready to return to practice next week. Questions?
That does not start his week clock, though, in terms of being cleared to play?
It does. No, it to be cleared to practice.
Okay.
He has to be cleared of symptoms, but, Mike, they can't determine whether he will have symptoms or not till they let him get on a treadmill and run some and do some activity. So that's what they're doing with him this week to make sure. So the way I understand it, he should be ready to return to practice next Tuesday if by doing these activities nothing reoccurs. But he was happy to be out there and upbeat, and you could tell he was excited to be back on the field, even though he did not practice. He is not going through drills. He is simply throwing the ball and doing some activities with our trainers.
How did he look? He looked good throwing the ball?
Yeah, yes, he looked the same. You know, again, he's got to work himself back into shape, and then he and the doctors and trainers would determine whether he's available for the last 3 games or not.
You said that's the first time he's been at a practice since?
He came out to practice once the first time he's thrown out there around us. And he wasn't in a drill with Major, to be very specific. He was standing and throwing with one of the other players while he was watching practice. But he stayed out there the whole time, and he's been in meetings now for a week. So he is making significant progress.
You said he lost 10 pounds last week, but physically he looked...
He's doing better. He's still not back where he needs to be, but I think that's part of this process for the week. He can do all that stuff and get his strength back as he's working back toward practice.
Coach, you've been so used to having DeLoss here. How does it change your workflow, if any, when you have to also wear that hat as welcoming the new guy in?
It really doesn't change that much. I mean, I've worked for a number of different athletic directors, and it looked like of the candidates that we had that we were going to get a really good person anyway. But I'm excited to have a guy that knows this place and been around this place and understands the culture of the place and will help us move forward. Sounds like he's done amazing things with facilities, and as I said, the friends we have at Arizona State are really sad to lose him and disappointed that he's gone, but said we've got a real treat moving forward.
Did you talk to Steve?
I have not. I think he gets in tomorrow.
How did you hear about the news?
DeLoss and Bill have kept me in the loop the entire time, so there was never a minute that I didn't know what was going on. So they've been great to me.
There's some talk that maybe the Aggie game could resume with the new AD. What are your thoughts on that subject?
My thoughts are we've got our hands full with West Virginia this weekend, and we got to take care of the ball and run it well and play great defense. That is out of. They're not on it. I looked. So I
Best Western, is that where you guys are staying?
I don't have any idea where we're staying, but
Did you schedule to make sure they weren't on it?
no. They actually had these 2 schedules. They had a 2-year proposal last year, so we knew what this schedule was going to be. But obviously, that's way above me. When the Bill Powers and the Regents and Steve would be looking at who we would play in the future. That would not be my concern.
Mack, everything gets examined here, as you know, but.
Really?
You were asked in part, I think, on how you found out about Steve Patterson's hiring, because there has been a report that you found out about through social media that somebody didn't actually call you. Is that true?
That's not true.
Did it come from Bill Power?
West Virginia.
Okay.
No, I did not read on Twitter that we hired a new athletic director.
You heard that.
I was told that by John Bianco and said, be ready to answer it when you come in, because that may be the biggest thing in the press conference. And gosh, I thought we had a game this weekend. We are undefeated, 5-0 in the Big 12 and moving forward.
Do you follow West Virginia on Twitter?
No, I do not. I follow recruits on Twitter, and that's all I do.
I guess we need to ask you to recruit a quarterback at West Virginia too. So
Yes, no, I'm sure I didn't.
what do you know about him and how has Trickett improved?
Rick is his dad, Rick Trickett, who's the offensive line coach at Florida State, is a very good friend of mine, and I've known Rick forever. And just watching him, you can see that he's very much like Case. He's manages the game. He's smart. He's going to make good decisions. He's a very good leader, and it's a good story for him. His dad's from West Virginia, a player there, and he wasn't going to get to start at Florida State. So this is where the 5-year rule works. It worked for West Virginia, and it worked for him. And I don't want him to have success on Saturday, but also I'm happy for him that his career ended up on a positive note.
What did they do against Oklahoma State that got them so behind the 8 ball?
It's usually turnovers on the road, and they disrupted them some. And I think you go back and look at it, a couple of missed field goals, and that's all you have to do on the road. It's tougher to win, so you've got to make sure that you take advantage of every opportunity to score.
How are they different from last year? Obviously, they lost some big pieces to the NFL.
Last year they were very balanced, but when they came in here, it was Geno Smith throwing the ball all the time, and Tavon Austin wasn't even the running back. They had another back there. But by the time they got to the end of the year, they were very balanced, and Tavon was a tailback, and he was all over the place. Right now, Sims, the transfer because he graduated from Houston, is a pro prospect and a really good football player, and they've got a big offensive line. So what they're doing now is putting some emphasis on the running game, and then Clint's getting the ball to the right people. And like Case, he's not a guy that's going to run option, or he's not a guy going to run a lot of quarterback draw. He can, but it's more the power running game and throwing the ball downfield. So they've adjusted to who they are this year, and they're not going with quite as fast a tempo as they did at Oklahoma State, but they've still got really good players.
Is he the only quarterback that's been playing? Haven't played two?
As of late, he is. They played some early, and I think Oklahoma State was his first game, and he's played since then.
Which are receivers catch your attention for West Virginia?
They're usually all tall guys. Carswell's not going to play, it doesn't sound like, and he's a really good football player. So he's their punt returner and kick returner.
Did Charles Sims talk to you about playing here? I know he left Houston after graduating.
Yes, we did not, because he was not interested in us because of all the backs that we had. When a 5-year guy transfers, he wants to be the guy, and I think it worked well for him.
How would you describe his style?
He's a lot like Malcolm Brown. He's big. They list him about 213. I'd say he's at least that. But he's fast, and he's a power runner, but he's also good out of the backfield. So we think he's a very good pro prospect at running back.
So basically, no tricks from them. It's pretty straightforward, power game.
It's different.
Take chances downfield.
No, it's different. They will throw the ball off play action, but if you don't stop the run, you're not going to see many throws.
Not worried about any weather situation up there?
No, in fact, it's kind of funny. It's 60s here today, and we'll be outside in the stadium because we feel like this is kind of a break for us. It'll be in the 40s there probably by game time, but our players usually like that, so we think they'll be excited about it, especially the big guys. They always like that.
Max Green hadn't played a ton until Jackson got hurt last year at Oklahoma. Did you see what he's done now coming? I mean, did you really think he could be that next big defensive end?
We did. Early, the thing we were concerned about, would he get strong enough, because he was a basketball player, to to, and as tall as he was, would he get strong enough to take the run? And he's been able to do that. So he's taken on the run, and he's just been such a great pass rusher. It's been fun to watch him grow.
I talked to a couple of the other talked to Sid Reed and Jackson, and they said the guys that used to play here, like Sergio and Kiki, have been a big help. Do you see a lot of that in that position? Because you've had some really great pass rushers here while you've been coach.
We do. Our NFL players have been so good to come back and mentor our guys. Now, DeLoss and Bill Powers have been the best in the country at asking those guys to come back and get their degree, and we actually pay for it. And then they work with us to work with our players. But I would have to think there's not a better place in America where NFL guys come back and mentor the guys that are on campus. These guys do a tremendous job of that.
Mack, you mentioned at one point earlier, I think before the TCU game, that the players were aware of the teams that beat them last year and kind of settled the score or whatever, if you will. They should have been successful 3 times. Do you think that's on their mind this week going into this one?
It's funny when you've got Will Travel with 70 and you've got 125 on your team. Their minds are all different. So to say it's on their minds. But I've heard them mention it some, that we've beaten 3 of the teams that beat us last year, and this is the only one we hadn't beaten because we beat the last 3 that we play last year. So what they do is they try to use whatever motivation they can to get themselves ready to play, and some use the revenge card and some don't.
Assume you'll see a desperate West Virginia team they're trying to get bowl eligible.
They are, but they're sitting there with 4 wins with 3 games left, so they've got some room to do that. But I do think the fact that they beat TCU will really excite them and give them more confidence with us coming to town. That's what we're hearing anyway.
Nothing you can talk from that.
No, it's still day to day, and I don't think he'll practice today, so odds are not good that he would play.
Would he make the trip?
Not if he doesn't practice tomorrow.
Like you
Was that
mentioned,
about David Ash? Was that question about David?
No, about Cochran.
But Ash won't make the trip.
No. We have not taken players that will not play.
you mentioned,
And excuse me, one of the reasons is it counts in your 70. So if you take one that is definitely out but is eligible, he has to count as a person you're traveling with.
You mentioned paying for former players to come back. Is that part of the, almost like a contract where they have to work with the current players?
They do if we pay for it. DeLoss has made it very clear he wants them to get their degree regardless of how much money they've made. And if they will come back, and some work in the weight room, some work in the academic center. If they haven't, if they've still got some, or if they haven't finished their undergraduate degree, because some of these are working in graduate degrees, but if they haven't finished their undergraduate degree, they can actually coach for you. So some come out and coach a little bit too. Nathan Vasher's helping out a little bit right now. And Vince helped out a lot just by being around and mentoring kids. But John could get you the number. We've had a large number of NFL guys graduate over the last 4 or 5 years that are coming back.
Is Sergio helping out too? 'Cause I saw him in the-
He is not right now on the field, but he's helping out in some areas off the field.
Have you or
And he is in school, trying to finish school.
have you or any of the other staff guys talked to Jermichael since he got out?
We have. Bruce Chambers stays in constant contact with him, and he's doing really well. We haven't asked the medical reports and all those things yet, but he's upbeat, and he did call the other day, and I missed it. He called me, and most of the time with those guys, you text back and forth because they got so many people pulling at them. But he is doing fine.